of us have hobbies and activities that we like to do in our free time. Most of us can only dream that we can someday do what we love for a living. This was the case for a cave explorer in the early 1900s. However, things wouldn't exactly end the way he'd hoped. In this video, we're taking a plunge into one of the most horrifying caving experiences in history. The ending takes a very strange turn, so make sure you stick around and see what happens. Viewer discretion is advised. William Floyd Collins was born on July 20th, 1887 in Logan County, Kentucky. Since the age of 6, Collins was a devoted cave explorer. His parents, Lee and Martha Jane Collins, owned a plot of farmland not far from Mammoth Cave. Overwhelming curiosity took hold of Collins from a young age, and he made a hobby out of exploring caves near his parents' farmland. Collins' passion for caves led him to discover what came to be known as the Crystal Cave beneath the family farm in 1917. Collins worked to develop the cave into an attraction that could intercept cavers headed to Mammoth Cave. But by the 1920s, other locals started trying to turn a profit from the state's vast cave systems. Soon, rival businesses all across Kentucky had set up their own guided cave tours. This is when something known as cave wars erupted as entrepreneurs thoroughly searched Kentucky for new caves. The competition was fierce and the work was dangerous, but this only made Collins more determined. Crystal Cave just didn't have what it took to become financially successful in that type of competitive environment. So Collins had his sights set on a different cave. This cave, located on the property of a nearby farmer, seemed very promising. Collins struck an agreement with the farmer to expand the cave and split the profits. This cave would become known as Sand Cave and became a nationally known location. Best of all, the farmer's property was closer to Cave City Road than Crystal Cave was, which meant that there was an opportunity to intercept anyone on their way to Mammoth Cave. On January 30th, 1925, Collins entered Sand Cave for the first time with nothing more than a kerosene lamp to light his way. The cave was full of tight and dangerous passageways, but it also contained an incredible subterranean coliseum, measuring about 80 feet high and located only 300 feet from the cave's entrance. Collins felt like he had a gold mine on his hands, but suddenly his lamp began to flicker, so Collins rushed towards the exit. But he dropped his lamp as he wedged his way through the tight passageway, and when he tried to grab it, he dislodged a 27-pound rock that pinned his leg. Collins was trapped. It wasn't until a day later that the farmer's son had discovered Collins still trapped in the cave. News of his predicament quickly spread throughout Cave City, and before long, countless people had arrived at the cave. Some came to help, and others gathered to watch the rescue. Word spread fast, and not just in Kentucky, but even beyond its borders. Before long, Collins had teams of all different skill sets working to rescue him. Engineers, geologists, and other cavers all pitched in to help. At one point, miners even showed up to dig a new shaft in hopes of getting Collins out from a different angle. Unfortunately, none of them were successful. Some of them could reach Collins, but they had no way of getting him out. Each day, more and more people came to witness the event. The mouth of the cave was crowded with tens of thousands of rescuers, observers, and even vendors who were selling food, drinks, and souvenirs. Some sources estimated as many as 50,000 people may have been gathered nearby. With this crowd came over 100 reporters. Among them was a young reporter named William Skeets Burke Miller. He got the name Skeet because he was, quote, not much bigger than a mosquito, and soon his small frame would prove highly beneficial, at least for himself. His small frame made it so he was able to squeeze through the narrow tunnels of Sand Cave. Miller was able to conduct several heart-wrenching and later Pulitzer Prize-winning interviews with Collins, who was still trapped inside the cave. He reported that Collins had been in agony every conscious moment since 10 a.m. Friday morning. He noted that Collins' lips had turned purple, and something must be done soon if he were to make it out alive. Sadly, nothing could be done. On February 4th, part of the cave ceiling collapsed. This would largely cut off Collins from his rescuers, and on February 16th, rescuers traversing a newly made shaft found Collins' body. By this time, no sounds came from Collins at all. No breathing, no movement, and his eyes were sunken. This indicates extreme exhaustion and starvation. Floyd Collins died trying to turn his cave into a success. Ironically, his death would now turn the nearby Crystal Cave into a tourist attraction. It took another 2 months for Floyd Collins' body to be removed from Sand Cave. Once extracted, he was laid to rest on his family's farm. A normal story would end there, but this story in particular only gets weirder. In 1927, Dr. Harry Thomas purchased Crystal Cave and extracted Collins' corpse. He put his body in a glass-topped coffin in the center of the cave in order to draw in tourists to come look at the remains. Next to it was a tombstone that read, "Greatest cave explorer ever known." Then, shockingly, things went from weird to completely bizarre. On September 23, 1927, a visitor to Crystal Cave had tried to steal Collins' body, but his attempt had failed. And less than 2 years later, on March 18, 1929, a thief had successfully stolen Collins' corpse. Authorities were able to track him down with the help of bloodhounds, but Collins' corpse somehow lost a leg in the process. The strange story finally came to an end in 1961 when the National Park Service purchased Crystal Cave. Access to Floyd Collins' tomb was limited, and his body was finally buried for good in 1989 at the Mammoth Cave Baptist Church. Thankfully, in the years since, no one else has tried to steal Floyd Collins' body. Finally, the adventure was over and the explorer could rest. Thank you for making it this far into the video. If you like these types of videos, along with any other true yet horrifying topics, be sure to follow me. And at this point, I'd like to add that if there are any other stories you'd like me to cover, my email is in the description. So feel free to share them with me, and they may end up in a future video. This is FearBank, and I'll see you next time.